Hello my friends and welcome to the deployment episode, the second part of the deployment really, but the actual deployment for Velona. Now one thing I said in the last deployment was that that the bow fighter could actually replace a fighter. It can, but only offensively. One thing that I forgot to mention was that it's not a fighter. Even though it's got fighter in the name, it's not a fighter. It does not have the fighter support trait. And because it doesn't have the fighter support trait, there's no need for it to have readiness. Because offensively, against other aircraft using it in the fighter role, no retaliation is ideal, so we can do the damage without taking any reply. But we don't need readiness because this unit is relatively inexpensive. And because it's not a fighter, we can defend it with another fighter. The reason why you put readiness, or in this case first strike, the reason why you put that on a fighter is because you are living in a world where you expect your fighters to be attacked, because the enemy will not attack your planes if they are defended by a fighter. They'll go after the fighter. Well, this is not a fighter. It can be defended by another fighter, so there's actually no need at all for it to have readiness. Because it's unlikely to be struck, and even if it were likely to be struck, you could defend it with another fighter. Interestingly, I have no idea what to add to this fighter in particular, because there's just nothing really that useful for it. So yeah, the mission briefing anyway, what's interesting about the mission briefing is the mission briefing said that that terrible weather was incoming, but we have sunshine right now and cloud coming soon. So we can still deploy spy planes everywhere, and we can still deploy some aircraft. Looking at the map, you have like a deployment zone for the enemy here, a deployment zone for the enemy here. The enemy owns this base here, so they've probably got a few units here. And the rest of the map is ours. And I doubt that there's anything there. So this map, I think it's been changed. And what I mean by that is, I don't know this for sure, but the only objective is to hold these 3 points. So, in theory, you could just make a wall along this river. You could just make a wall along the river here and across the mountains. Sit behind it and spam the end turn button until you win the mission. Because the 3 points that you're supposed to protect are here. So you could just literally do that. But, if you notice, these other tiles are marked as objectives. But there's no objective that matches them. So I'm just going to presume that this mission originally had an objective to actually hold all of these areas. And then that was scrubbed at some point. So, I guess what I'm saying is, even though they said that, even though the weather report said that we're gonna have more terrible weather, the first 2 turns the weather is okay, so those are the most important turns for finding out what's going on the map. So we can just deploy a load of spy planes and actually just spy on the whole region. Probably from here and from here. This base here, there's probably a small pocket of units here that's gonna come in and be a pain in the ass. This bit looks undefendable, and these guys are sandwiched between this spawn point and this spawn point with mountains everywhere. They probably won't hold. This base probably won't hold either. But we'll know that once we deploy spy planes. So my thought is, if I deploy here, and we won't deploy too many planes, but what we will deploy is some strat bombers, the heavy duty ones. These two. Isn't the enemy... The enemy does not even have an airport in this top deployment area. The only airport they actually start with is this one, down here. I think just like the last mission, the enemy's probably not going to have any aircraft. We can probably trust the mission briefing on that. We'll bring the fighter plane because we need to. Put legendary, because why not? Someone's got to hold the legendary. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we really want to do with it. But deploy a fighter here, and our fighter, not fighter, and 2 strat bombers. And then once I can buy auxiliary units, I will put some spy planes here, here, and up here, and very quickly gain a sense of what is going on. And we got 2 turns to do so. As soon as we see snow, we will withdraw our aircraft to an airport that we've definitely got secure. But I think, based on the fact that these hexes are marked as important objectives, that maybe originally this scenario was designed to have a bonus objective of holding all of these tiles. And I think that's something that I can probably do. So I've sort of gone backwards here with deployment, as in starting with air deployment. But the reason why is because I have forward air bases. I do not have, and I think this will be the nearest enemies, I have forward air bases, so I could in theory deploy here too. I do not have forward ground deployment. Right, KVs. I always bring them because they're just as tough as old iron bars. The question is, how do we want to build them? And are we going to bring a 21cm gun? Because if we bring a 21cm gun, then that's, you know, we're going to have to use one of our 0 slots heroes for that. Okay, well, 1 tank is definitely going to be 0 slots because paying 10 cost for it is definitely too much. The question is, do we want to add anything else? Do you know what? I'm tempted to put leadership or aim assist on both of them to help them level up. Because that's really what I use these tanks for more than anything, is leveling up and getting steamrolls. But they'll get steamrolls by themselves pretty easily because they're just so dangerous. Let's go with... I think... will we bring a 21cm? I think we'll bring the 21cm. So let's go with reduced slots as well. Field repairs to keep them going. Man, if you were to put readiness on these, no one would ever attack them. No one would ever dare to attack them. It's kind of wasted though. And I had artillery support on one last time. But I might use that for an infantry division. Speed is of the essence a little bit. Let's go with... Let's make an offensive. No, let's not. Ah, man, it's so hard. As long as we're using the field repair guys, obviously it's taking up a slot for us. Even Fearsome Reputation is interesting for this kind of unit, since it can just sit on the front line and be a total nightmare for the enemy to deal with. Yeah, we'll put leadership on. Okay, so here's the thing. The ground deployment zone is all the way over here. So we need to get to the front line ASAP. That means the best infantry for the job, we have 3 cargo planes, is going to be paratroopers. Because they can get to the front line fast. So I have a selection of paratroopers that could be ideal for the job. Why have these paratroopers got a friggin' truck? Pretty sure that paratroopers cannot fly with the truck. So let's take a pair of paratroopers. They do need some experience. I won't use the least experienced ones for this. Now, the obvious thing to put on each one is field medic for both of them. Since there's really no other units to put this on. Now, we could make an artillery infantry. That would be the most useful on the front line. And the best way to make that painful for the enemy is to give them the artillery stat, of course, wherever I've left it. Artillery support. And to give him readiness. Because it means that you either hit the unit directly, in which case it's going to shoot first, or you attack the units around it, in which case it's going to shoot you. And I will bring the strength up a little bit, because I can't repair. And these units are going into a hostile work environment. A very hostile work environment. Now, the other one, the extra initiative means that when attacking or defending, this unit will, generally speaking, shoot first. Interestingly, what would be a good thing to go with this would be something like rapid fire 1.5x or 2x. But I don't have that. So the question is, where do we go from there? And you know what? I'm actually tempted by double attack. Because this unit will be on the front line fighting, and it's going to take damage. And what double attack does for this infantry unit is it allows me to attack twice, that's obvious. But if I attack only once and keep the second attack spare, you heal as long as you have your attack. As long as you have an attack at the end of the turn, you heal. So this is where this is great, because I can attack once and heal every turn. These two combine actually very neatly, very nicely. Okay, so mostly the rest of what we want to bring is stuff that is quick, so that we can get straight to the front line as quickly as possible. And we're going to need some artillery for this. This is going to be a defensive engagement, of course. So let's start with... Let's bring the weaker 21cm gun. We'll get some experience on it. If I bring these 3 artillery, okay. First things first, let's deck out the 21cm. I think the usual setup is good, i.e. lethal attack. Fast deployment so it can get places. And 0 slots wherever I left it. Pretty solid setup. I could almost be tempted to... I mean, it's actually very good against artillery without these... I could almost be tempted to put lethal attack on a 15cm for a defensive engagement. Because it's going to trigger way more. This sort of mission is also probably a good one to bring a waffle to. Let's take lethal attack off this. And go for an offensive 15cm instead. Could extend the ammunition and range. But then it's already got great range. I doubt that the enemy is going to have much in the way of 21cm. Pretty rare for the AI to have that. This unit does need experience. Let's put Fast Learner on. See if we can get that experience up as quickly as possible. Okay. So this is going to be our primary face-smashing weapon. Fast deployment, lethal attack, and let's give it that extra range so we can reach out and touch people. Okay, which means that this artillery here is just going to be used as a defensive platform. And not on the front line. Leadership is a solid thing to have for a unit that's going to sit just behind the front line. Interestingly, actually, all of my other artillery require experience, but not this one. So let's swap these around. You can be the spare 21cm, and let's revert you to 15 so I can level you up as well. I think it's going to be a grind of a mission, and so the opportunity for experience is going to be good. Is it worth the extra slots? No, let's just leave it standard. I'll put cheap replacements on it. It's probably be the first unit I run away to repair if it takes any damage. Envelopment. No, not envelopment. What am I on about? Leadership, wherever the hell it's gone. So it can sit just behind the front line and offer leadership. And unyielding, yeah, I don't like my artillery to be suppressed. That depends if the enemy's got any aircraft, though. I doubt that the enemy's got any aircraft, and I've deployed for that. Let's run this fast anti-aircraft. Because we're going to have a mad dash to get from here to the front line as quickly as possible. So I want to run fast units on this mission. And the KVs, because the KVs are glorious. Shame we haven't got any trains. Because I would love to just load my KVs into a train and then just take the railway to the front line. That would be the best. I think what I need to do is just take one attack group along this road to here to defend this region, and one attack group along the bottom road, or down this center here, because there's roads here, down the middle to here, and then establish a front line here, and then push. I think that this group here is probably, well, is definitely surrounded and should probably just be evacuated, but the spy planes will tell me what I need to know. Okay, so in terms of the anti-aircraft guns, they do not require aggressive deployment or anything like that, and I've used it for artillery anyway. I think if there's no enemy aircraft, then they're going to be spending all of their time in anti-tank mode. I have a reduced slots. I could use that on that other artillery. A maxed out 15 centimeter is only 8 slots though. There are also plenty of tanks that would be that price. How many readinesses have I got? Readiness is pretty good. Because it would stop them being struck directly. Do you know what? If I put readiness on both of them... What's interesting about them is... when they're in anti-tank mode, they won't be protected by anything. Because anti-tank can't be supported, just like fighters. But readiness at least allows them to defend themselves well. And then aggressive counterattack and no surrender would be a good combination to stop that one from dying. Do I have another aggressive counterattack? I do have another no surrender. Maybe unyielding. Do you know what? I think that's pretty solid for these two. We'll use them as anti-tanks. Let's see what they're like in anti-tank. Hard attack of 10, soft attack of 4. It's alright. It's alright. 10 hard attack is... With don't forget, with rapid fire 2x, 10 hard attack is actually enough to do some serious damage. 4 soft attacks, not so great. I think most infantry has got enough ground defense to resist that, but they'll still be hurt. Stat boosters would be amazing on these, because +5 to soft or +5 to hard would make these very vicious. But that is not something I have. Did I just put that away? Nope. Where'd he go? Oh! I did put it away. But it's been labelled as an anti-tank. And no, if you move an anti-aircraft gun and label it as anti-tank, it is not an anti-tank. You cannot cross-class cheaply. Okay, let's put you back as anti-air. Yeah, I think that'll work. It's something. Just a shame that, interestingly, the anti-soft artillery thing would be quite nice on these anti-aircraft guns as well. The artillery support. Because you could basically give an anti-aircraft gun soft plus hard together, and it doesn't have suppressive fire like a real artillery. You might actually be able to make better artillery out of anti-aircraft guns than you do out of real artillery if you put anti-soft on them. That's funny to think about. However, the 8.8 centimeter gun has only got one soft attack. It's not capable of damaging infantry, really. But if you ever get your hands on Butcher, which I don't have, if you have Butcher plus anti-soft artillery, you could put both of those on an 8.8 and use it like a 15 centimeter gun. It will actually be far superior in that role to a 15 centimeter gun. Far superior. Because Butcher will take it from one... I'm pretty sure it's only got one anti-soft. You can double check it. It's either 1 or 2. Pretty sure it's 1. Oh, it's 5! That's not bad. Yeah, so you take it from 5 to 10. That goes from being below the ground defense of most infantry to being above the ground defense of most infantry. You'd actually have quite a vicious piece of artillery. But it's still an anti-tank gun, so it does not... It won't be defended by other things, so you'd have to put readiness on it as well. You'd have to run readiness, Butcher, and anti-soft artillery. Then it would be pretty good. Anyway, I need to stop dreaming about heroes I haven't got. Okay, so these guys are going to be ready to just fly in. We're going to fly them both to this position where my aircraft are. This is the position that needs reinforcing immediately, since there are enemies here. I can only presume that there are enemies here. And it's also the furthest away from where I start. Whereas the other position, which is here, that we wanted to defend, pulling these guys out, setting up our first wall of defense here, and here. This position can be reached much more quickly because there's a major road right here that just goes straight there. Okay, so that is everything except tanks and recons, which is where things get interesting. Do we bring recons? They're certainly fast, but they're not great in defense. Tanks are much better at defending, but they're not fast. And do we bring trainee tanks? Or do we bring our hardest, toughest kit? I think since we're on the defensive, we're probably going to be mobbed with crappy units. So it's probably wise to bring tougher kit. So let's take the 3 H's. I used all my readiness on my anti-aircraft guns, didn't I? I don't have another one. Nope, but I have 3 no retaliations. I could put tank killer on it. Let's bring this to. Because I've got an idea. I've got an idea so cunning you could put a tail on it and call it a weasel. Okay, alright, so these 3 tanks are obviously going to be used for defensive purposes. Or offensive purposes too, in the case of this one. So the most obvious thing is to just put no retaliation on all of them so that they can attack without taking damage. I've got some hit and run here, but I'm not really sure where I'm going to use that. In fact, it's good to combine with this guy, but I've got plans for him. Okay, so this tank. Okay, first let's look at these tanks. So I don't think I have any other choices here. I think this tank is about the best and the fastest that I have. 5 movement is as good as it gets, really. None of these other vehicles are... You know, I could deploy Char B1s, which are tougher, but they're also slower. So we're going to be waiting for them to wheel their asses to the front line. And we're already going to be waiting for the KVs. You know, these vehicles would be perfect in a defensive engagement, which is what this is. But it's a defensive engagement where we're not actually anywhere near the front line and we need to be there. This is slightly better against infantry as well, while only giving up 1 point of attack. What else am I going to do with these French wagons? Let's bring out the Char B1s. What the hell? What else am I going to do with them? A little bit slow, or slower, but they, as long as I run them along the roads, they'll be there within 3 or 4 turns. It's a 25 turn long mission. Okay, so interestingly with this guy, I think this guy could be quite the little steamroller of infantry especially. Let's run this, which then gives us extra tank punch. That takes us from 9 to 13, I want to say. No, 14, which is not bad at all. And then that +3 initiative. This tank has already got 8 initiative because it's a flame tank. So then hit and run is actually going to be great on this. You know, other tanks have got 6 initiative because this is designed to out initiative infantry. So that means that hit and run is basically as good as no retaliate on this. And that leaves us with... So we already ignore entrenchment, which is nice. We could add shock tactics, which would allow us to get captures. Yeah, distraction would probably be good for this. For when it dives in to get some infantry. If that infantry is next to an anti-tank gun. So we just need to remember that this tank is for barbecue purposes only. Right, I have a half slots unit available. Which makes me wonder if I shouldn't just take the old cheap replacements off this and run the half slots instead. And just amp this up. Okay. In case you're wondering, like, obviously I don't have enough units to support all this. I am gonna deploy auxiliary infantry as well as the spy planes to hold my front line for me. In case you were wondering. Now, I would want to add a couple of recons because that's always a good idea. Though the question becomes, where do I make the cuts? Because when it starts snowing, only the recons are going to be able to see. Or I could just bring another tank and not even worry about recons at all. And just worry about holding the front line. How many rolls does this guy need now? Another 12. If I brought a tank though, it would be just at 10 strength. What's the... it's not great initiative we've got here. Let's bring at least one recon. Maybe 2 would be a good idea. Probably don't need to run these quite so potent. How many slots is this costing me? Just 4. It's a very cheap unit. And I run my fighter high because it's not that good without it being high. Okay, alright. Let's make a flexible change. Shuffle in 2 recon cars because I need to see what I'm doing. If it's gonna snow like the mission suggests, then I need to see. Okay, this is slightly overstrengthed recon. What we can do is we can ignore entrenchment with it. And then ignore entrenchment. I don't know if hit and run would be that useful. Let's try it. Wait, actually, forget that. Forget that. Let's ignore entrenchment with this tank. That way it can smash things for me. And let's ignore zone of control so it can get to where it needs to be to do damage. And then this one... we'll make this one into Surrender Deluxe. So overwhelming attack and shock tactics or envelopment. Let's go with envelopment because if this hits the enemy, they will surrender. So there's no shock tactics is actually good on a plane because it stops the enemy from moving. Shock tactics is actually pretty good on one of these two because it's going to kill the movement of whoever I target. I don't know if there's anything I want to add to this. Ignores entrenchment is actually really good on this kind of unit as well. In fact, that's what I'm going to do because the attack on this is not that great. But at least with ignores entrenchment, it will get some work done constantly. Might as well. Entrenchment killer gives him something to do. You can shred the enemy's entrenchment once he's done. Interestingly, I think ignores entrenchment and entrenchment shredding are actually quite good together. But you just I have so many heroes that are good. It actually stresses your brain trying to figure out what the best combinations are. No retaliation, ignores zone of control. I think maybe fearsome reputation for this would be good, or no retaliation. Oh, he's already got it. Hit and run. Oh, he's already got no retaliation. I don't want envelopment. Really. Shock tactics. I was going to put that on a plane, wasn't I? Damn, this is like really actually quite hard. There's not many obvious choices because a lot of what I have is not very good. I doubt he's going to take any damage, so learns from mistakes is probably a waste of time. Let's go with River Assault. Because there's actually a river. There's actually like a river up the top area here, and here. I don't know how that's going to be that helpful, but anyway. Shock tactics. I probably should stick that actually on something. To completely kill movement. These guys already do damage to movement. Do you know what? I'll make my recons able to make people surrender as required. Shock tactics. Let's Let's go with the big one can have no retaliation. Then envelopment to support that. Fearsome reputation feels like it would be good on the front line. Actually. Units sat next to it will be suppressed at the start of the next turn. Yeah, let's go with distraction, because that allows us to attack the enemy, possibly force them to surrender, and they've got no way of stopping me because I've got distraction. Hit and run because it's what I have left. I don't know, River Assault, because, you know, whatever. I'm reaching the point now where I have plenty of heroes and plenty of choice. I could have a much bigger army, but it doesn't make sense to do that with delayed reinforcements, because repairing is just too difficult and too painful. Okay, alright. So we want this. These two tanks plus artillery to support them plus an anti-air to support them. And let's go with the better recon. For this group, which is rapidly reinforcing this area. Speaking of which, if you're playing standard, like not, you know, with all these punishing traits, you could load up artillery or anti-aircraft guns into airplanes and actually land them at this airport if you wished. That might not be the greatest strategy though, but it's an option. Okay, so this group is going to push up here as soon as possible. Now, this is where the enemy is probably on our doorstep. So I need my best units down here ASAP. So these two, the fast deployment artillery is at the top, so that both of them have got fast deployment, but the two artillery are going down here. This one is the lethal one as well. So one lethal 15 centimeter can fill a lot of roles that these two will have to fill. Seems like a funny way of putting it, but it's true. Which is the quicker road route? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. But this is all major road. That unit, I kind of really don't want to set it back too far. We want to start on a road tile if we can. Okay, alright. One thing that we could air transport as well is infantry. Like, not paratroopers, proper heavy infantry. Alright, let's talk about auxiliary deployment now. It's an unbelievably long deployment video, along with the other one, which is unbelievably long deployment video, but there is much to say and much to think about. Speaking of which, in preparing my reserve, I did buy some spy planes, didn't I? No, I didn't. Ah well, I probably wouldn't use them anyway. I don't need to overstrength them, let's keep them cheap. Let's go with 6. Who cares? It's not expensive. I want to see everything. And I mean everything. Okay, and now we want some auxiliary infantry to just reinforce the area, and normally I would go with regulars for that purpose. But I think actually, I think Alpine would probably be better, because Alpine has got better close defense, and while its soft stat is slightly lower, this is like really mountainous terrain. Mountains here, mountains here, mountains here, mountains here, mountains everywhere. Do I want to invest in trucks for them? Or do I want to just hump them to the front line? Well, I can certainly stick one in a transport plane and land it at an airport, so... In fact, I think I'll probably just air transport them. If I can. One... 2... 3... 18... 12... Okay, we do have a supply hex. Something to think about. We do have a supply hex, and I'm sure that this one works. So when the Italians start getting slaughtered, maybe I can actually bring up more auxiliaries. I'll just sit these guys at this airport. We'll fly them in. We'll fly them to the front line immediately. Okay. And I guess one last thing that's worth doing. Okay, that's weird. I have 14 free auxiliary slots, but I'm not being allowed to buy anything else. Well, that's a bug. What I was going to do is buy 3 boat engineers and just deploy them here, here, and here, just in case there's any kind of paratrooper shenanigans or anything that the enemy does or somehow sneaks into this port. Or even, you know, if I end up in a load of trouble and end up pulling back. That's kind of, that's defeatist talk anyway, so maybe it's best that I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm out of money, that's why. Because I filed away all my cash. Ah. That's why I can't do it. Silly me. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Whatever. Just in case some enemy sneaks past. Because it might be instant failure if you lose those points. Wow, it doesn't look like it will be because it's just hold. But you don't know what the enemy's victory conditions are. The enemy can have a victory condition that you can't see, and you'll just lose. Okay, that's it for now. Deployment complete. Yeah, massive amount to do in the deployment because it's the last mission of the campaign. So we really had to think about everything. We're ready to go for the last mission, I think. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next mission. Or in the mission.